Thank you for joining us, everyone, for another episode of Live by Heart
Today
with your hosts, Dawn Spiegelberg and Wendy R. Wolf.
Hello and welcome to the Live by Heart Today show. This is a show designed to help you navigate change, uncertainty, and the new world we found ourselves in. We'll talk a little bit about science. We'll talk a little bit about how our body works. We'll talk a little bit about intuition, and we'll talk a lot about transformation. Our theme for today is synthesizing safety. And for today's Heart to Heart, I'm happy to introduce my show host, Wendy R. Wolf, the Professional Transformation Facilitator. Hi, Wendy. Welcome.
Hi. So glad to play today, Dawn.
I'm glad you're here playing today, too. So in our conversation about synthesizing safety, we talked about several different ways you could think about that phrase. Let's start there.
Yes. Well, I just want to say I'm so excited because I really want to learn even more from you today about the biology of safety and how the body works and how we can work with the body to serve us and our world and open our hearts. So, yeah. And in everything you tell me, then I can take it on consciously in physical ways, but also with intention to settle down in the places where I might not feel so safe. So I'm just really looking forward to you jumping in to
You're so sweet. And I like that. You said settling down into a place that's safe, because so many of us right now, today, for the last 6 weeks now, it's been at least 6 weeks. I know my husband's been working from home for 7 weeks this week. We've all not felt settled. Actually, I've been feeling pretty settled, but a lot of us aren't feeling settled. And why is that? Because it's a biological response. And I love talking about the biology of how our bodies work. So when we talk about synthesizing safety, one thing that we're bringing forward with us from prior shows is Maslow's hierarchy of need, because safety is on the list and it's low, right? It's one of the broader bars of the bottom of that pyramid, and we all need to feel safe. And safety is really a biological response that we can have when our environment is supportive to us, when our environment has the things necessary for a more positive outcome. And why do I say positive outcome? Because I want to talk about the opposite first. I want to talk about why we may not be feeling safe. So synthesizing safety implies that, one, we can make our own safety, which is super important. Our families, the family unit was designed for the parents to provide safety for the children. Not everyone got that, but that's what it was designed to do. But then when we're adults, we are designed to synthesize and create our own safety. So we must know where our own safety comes from. Yes. Synthesize also means we use it for artificial things that are made and not necessarily natural, which means you may have to take specific steps to create a safety for yourself because you haven't had safety before. Synthesize does mean put together, it does mean create, but it also can imply that it's not a natural thing. So given what's going on in the world today, which is really, some things are just not natural, like people not going to work, that is not natural, right? People fighting over toilet paper, that's not natural. People's feelings, right? This feeling of stress and uncertainty and what is going to happen, and our hands, our actual bodies in the hands, and our outcomes, our situations in the hands of the government, that's not typical for this country either. So lots of uncertainty happening, lots of not safe things. So when it comes to the biology, and when you jump in, if you want, at any moment, and I'll pause.
I will. You go, girl.
When it comes to biology, this is so amazing because we have two responses in our nervous system. It's called officially the autonomic nervous system. And there are two responses that we have. One is the sympathetic, one is the parasympathetic. They're big words. What they really mean is one is, I don't feel safe. That's the sympathetic. And the other is, I feel safe. That's the parasympathetic. Now, what's important to understand about these responses is that everybody knows them and everybody's experienced them because there's only two. There is not a third option. So how do I know everyone's experienced them? Because if you read the statistics about the level of stress in the United States, it's super high. And what do we know about stress? That's a response of the I'm not safe part of our nervous system. Because why? Because there is a threat. There is something threatening our physical being, our safety, our security. Our physical body doesn't know if it's going to survive what's happening. And that's really important to understand because when you're under stress, there is a specific response from particular organs in our body. For example, our eyes, they dilate and get bigger around. Why would the eyes dilate if you're feeling stress? Well, if you think of it in stress terms as like, say, a mountain lion chasing you, your eyes are dilating so that you can find a place to hide, right? You want to take in more information in your eyes so that you can go to that place you need to maintain your safety. Makes perfect sense, right? Here's another one. Your heart is going to start beating faster. Why is that? Because it's preparing to run or climb the tree, although don't run away from mountain lions. That's not what you're supposed to do. But do run away from a big bear. You should run from bears, right? So your heart rate increases in order to pump the blood and get your immune system really turned on and ramped up, right? So it sends white blood cells all over the body. And our heart rate increases so we can be oxygenated while we're trying to run away. And these are all normal, natural respond to the I'm not feeling safe external stimulus. And what's amazing about this, that it works. If we're really being threatened by a bear, then we've got the energy to run away. We've got the energy to do what's necessary to keep this physical body absolutely safe. Now, what's also, I think, amazing and astounding is that when this nervous system turns on, this is the I'm not safe, and it's a stress response. Guess what happens to our energy? We take all of our energy that we've stored up and we dump it out into the organs and the tissues that are going to be vital in helping us be safe, run away, hide, right, climb the tree. So this isn't oh, I'm just going to run away from this bear using 30% of all my energy. This is, I'm running away from the bear and I'm going to run as fast as I possibly can. And I didn't know I could run this fast, which means I've overpowered my body, right? I've given it more than what I thought was possible because this is a really scary thing coming after me.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's happening in coronavirus? We don't have a bear coming after us. We have people telling us that the coronavirus is going to get you. So that's like a bear, right? We have the same response. We don't feel safe. We don't feel safe. Some of the hormones that we produce, right? Everybody knows the stress hormone, cortisol. What do these kinds of things do in our body? It decreases our ability to digest food. So if you're scared and at home and eating more, that's really not helping you, right? Because your digestion has decreased. And so you're putting things in, but your body's not able to use it properly because naturally when we're running away from a threat, we're also not eating a sandwich, right? We drop the sandwich and go, right?
Yes.
It's fascinating. So why is this so important to talk about now? Because we can't see the threat to us, but we still feel that there's a threat. And our body has a specific response. So the information comes in through our eyes or through our ears, right? Because we're listening or we're watching. And the first thing that happens is one of our organs says, is this something to feel safe about or not safe about? Right? That's the first thing that happens before you've had a chance to think about it, before you've had a chance to say, what's the date they're going to let us all get out of the house, right? You're already assigning a meaning. Is this information allowing me to feel unsafe or safe? And then the next thing that happens is the message goes to your hypothalamus and you start producing hormones to prepare you for, right, what's happening, unsafe or safe. So this is really important to understand. If you are feeling afraid, if you're feeling uncertain, if you're feeling chaotic, frustrated, short-tempered, and what else? You're in a house with people you're not accustomed to being around 24/7, right? There's a reason why you're feeling this way and you're responding in these ways. It's because it's natural. You're designed to feel that way. What would you like to say about that, Wendy?
Real, one thing many people have heard is this fight, flight, freeze.
Yes.
And this is related.
This is it.
This is it.
It's not related, it's it.
It's it. And these are the three choices when the sympathetic system is set in gear.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Those are the things that you're designed to do. You're designed to either fight off the bear, right? You're designed to freeze like the little rabbits when you step outside and there's a rabbit in your yard and they just go, right? Because why? Because if you freeze and stop moving, then the threat might not see you.
Yeah.
Which is good, right? So you fight, you freeze, or you run to hide.
Mm-hmm.
You run away. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, and another thing, you kind of pointed to it, but it's like all this response is designed for acute emergencies.
Yes.
It's designed for like the wolf is chasing and then we live or we die, right? Like if we were a rabbit, we live or we die and that's it.
Yes.
But instead, a lot of our society now but all, all our lives, there's this chronic unsafety perception. And so chronically, this all happening, just keeps happening. It's hard on the body.
That's really important to make note of, because in the animal kingdom, you're absolutely right. There is an imminent threat. The coyote is after the rabbit. It chases the rabbit, and it either catches the rabbit or it doesn't, right? And then the rabbit goes on to living its life, not being threatened. So our bodies are designed to feel safe more than to feel not safe.
Yeah. Right.
More
but
safety.
That's not how it is in our society for most people.
It's not how it is at all. Not how it is at all. So because that's not how it is, that's why we called this show Synthesize Safety, because you have to know what kinds of things to do when you don't feel safe. Yes. So physiologically, when you don't feel safe, there is a threat, and you either have to run, you have to hide, or you're going to freeze, right? But you're not supposed to do that for a long, long, long time. And I can mention that the response that we have is a hormone that gets dumped into the synaptic, the space between the nerves, right? And then that hormone is taken up when we're actually running. That hormone is taken up when we freeze, right? Or when we hide. Oh. But we're not designed to have the hormone keep getting dumped into our system.
Yes,
when the hormone keeps getting dumped, then what happens? We get adrenal fatigue. Our digestion doesn't just stop working for that brief period of time. It stops working. And you notice there's no end to the colitis. There's no end to IBS in the world. There's no end to all the food sensitivities. I believe fibromyalgia falls under this category, right? Like all of these diseases, and this explains why some people say all disease starts in the gut. Well, I think it's true. All disease starts in the gut because we're all stressed out, and that stress response is telling the nervous system to stop working. So that, it sort of points to actually what's between our ears first, initially. So what's fascinating, I think, is that we can change it. And before we talk about changing it, we are going to take a break and say a big thank you to our sponsors, We Are Historically, for being a part of our show and for sponsoring this content.
Thank you, We Are Historically, for your conscious brand apparel.
We were just talking about biology and synthesizing safety, but we talked about how we aren't feeling safe in our current situation. Now we're going to talk about how you can feel safe and the kinds of things that you can do in order to switch that, I'll call it a gear, switch that nervous system response to the now I feel safe instead of the stress response. So briefly, let's talk about the I feel safe response. This is considered the parasympathetic response, and I would love to mention that it's the second level on Maslow's hierarchy of need. That means we have personal security. That means, for the most part, we have self-esteem. That means we have the ability to create an environment for ourselves that is a safe environment. So a lot of parents can complain about walking through their house when they have very young children, because young children have toys that often get left on the floor, right? So what do we all do as parents of young children? We put the toys away so we're not tripping on them, right? The children are not tripping on them. That's one way we make our environment safe. What are other ways we make our environment safe? We lock our doors at night, right? We make sure our car is parked in the right place and not out on the street where it can get hit. Lots of things we do. We don't leave our windows open. We put screens on them or locks on them, right? There are a lot of things that we do for the safety of our physical environment. And that means we should also do things that are safe for the physical environment of our bodies. So one very important thing that we mentioned a couple shows ago has everything to do with breathing. And I want to mention breathing first, because in our sympathetic response, which is the I'm not safe response, our heart races, our eyes dilate, and our breathing becomes shallow. And everybody knows that when you're stressed, right, you tend to breathe with these the upper ribs, and your shoulders are breathing. And you could practice right now shifting your body's understanding of whether or not it's safe by just taking in a big old belly breath, right? So take a big breath in and out. Just practicing to breathe with your belly is one way to make the shift for your nervous system. Now, that's not easy because you're not necessarily thinking about breathing when you're in a situation where you don't feel safe. But it's possible for you to write yourself a note, or for you to put a string around your finger, right? Whatever it takes. When you begin feeling stressed, and there isn't really anything around you to be stressed about. There's no lion, there's no tiger, there's no wolf, there's no coyote, right? There's just somebody talking about the coronavirus, and you don't feel safe. Take in a big, deep breath and let it out. And keep trying to breathe in order to bring down your nervous system. So what is that doing? Breathing is allowing yourself to take in oxygen and release carbon dioxide, the byproducts of metabolism, right? It's also beginning the process of slowing down your heart rate. And when you slow down your heart rate, that is another indicator that your body is safe, right? Because it's the opposite of the sympathetic nervous system, which is a higher heart rate. and a higher respiration. So the things we can do to lower our respiration and lower our heart rate are exactly the things that can help shift us, actually shift our nervous system so that we're feeling safe. Even though we still have coronavirus going on around us, we can actually create safety. Now, doing these things, breathing, lowering our heart rate, and I want to talk about breathing in particular. Breathing through the nose is amazing because when you do that, our nostrils are designed and they create a vortex. And the vortex of air swirls, and this swirl stimulates the production of nitric oxide. Nitric oxide from our nasal passages hitting our lungs and being absorbed by our lung tissue actually dilates our blood vessels, and it also helps our heart to begin relaxing. So breathing through your nose, taking big belly breaths, it's all physiologically designed to calm our nervous system. What are some of the hormones that are the products of calming our nervous system? A hormone called oxytocin, and everybody calls it now the love hormone. This hormone is the one that is produced when we feel safe. It's the one produced when infants are born and they begin nursing. They're the hormones you feel when you're rocked carefully, right? So this is really beneficial, and few people talk about the benefits of physical touch and massage therapy. But physical touch, massage therapy, and this gentle rocking that happens when you receive massage therapy is stimulating your sense of safety. It's calming your heart rate, it's decreasing your respiration, and it's phenomenal. It's not just, fluff and buffing your skin. It's actually shifting your nervous system to arrest and digest. And on top of the rest and digest idea, right? Resting, which is expanding your blood vessels and your heart rate decreasing, your digestion is turned up. And we need our digestion turned up because in our society, our digestion isn't working very well anymore. So turning up your digestion means that you get satiated with the food that you eat. Means that you're able to absorb the energy from the food that you're getting. There's one thing I want to mention, and I talked about running away from the bear and dumping all your energy 100% so you could get away from the bear, right? But if you're in a constantly stressed state and you're constantly dumping all your energy, when are you renewing it? When are you giving your body the chance to absorb the energy from your food and hold it in your cells and in your organs and really feel revitalized? This is the act of raising your energy. It's like charging the battery on your telephone, right? You want to keep yourself up to 100% because when you get down and you dump all your charge, you've lost contact with people, you don't have your calendar, right? Everything begins to disconnect. But when you have 100% charge, when you have 100% charge in your body, things are all connected. Things are coherent. And coherence is a very important word because we use it to talk about the balance and the alignment between our head and our heart. So our head and the loud voices that say things like, oh my God, what's going to happen next, which can trigger our stress response, right? Those voices become quieter and we're listening to our heart, and our heart can be that calming influence. Our heart can still see the good in the world and experience peace even in the state of the coronavirus pandemic.
So exciting, Dawn. I love this information. I really hope everyone's getting a lot out of it because I sure am.
I really think that if people understood the ability they have themselves to make changes to their internal state of being, there would be a much quicker global change, right? I've been reading that everybody's saying, oh, the world is in a global change right now. And yeah, it feels so uncomfortable. And this kind of understanding, this practice of living by heart, would allow people to expand and shift into the changes in the world with ease and grace and calm, in a way that being stressed out doesn't help. It doesn't allow you to make the shift. And there's nothing wrong with being stressed. There's a place for it. But being chronically stressed and chronically afraid is very, very hard on the body, and we're not designed to live in that state for long periods of time. So I encourage people that it's possible to live by heart, it's possible to live in coherence, and this is the other state of our nervous system. This is the safety place that you can live. And when you feel safe, you're digesting your food, you've got high levels of energy, you're able to manage little conflicts that happen. I'll just share with you briefly, we started a bathroom remodel, except our second bathroom stopped working, right? And so on top of the not feeling safe because a part of my environment, right, the cave, the house that I live in that has been the same for the last 17 years, right? Tearing that out is one level of shift in safety. I don't feel safe right now because my bathroom, right, can't be used properly. I actually commend people who make it through house remodels with sanity and joy and happiness, right? Because they're changing their environment, and changes in environment like this aren't safe, right? It doesn't initiate good, positive outcomes, and I think that's why a lot of people get lots of stress during renovations. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can create your own safety, create your own sense of, you can synthesize your own safety in your own body by doing what we recommend, which is focusing on your breathing and lowering your heart rate. And Wendy, what would you like to say before we wrap up today's show about synthesizing safety?
Well, there's other things that we've talked about over time. Like we talked recently, you and I, about humming.
Yes.
And I guess humming is just, breathing in the nose.
It's not just breathing in the nose, right? It is just breathing in the nose. Yes. It increases your production of nitric oxide by 15%.
Humming, just humming.
Just humming. And what do you notice? People who hum tend to be happy people. People who hum and who are happy have lower blood pressure, lower heart rates, and lower respiration, which means you could artificially hum to increase your nitric oxide in order to fuel yourself and propel you into being a happy person, even if you're not starting happy.
Yeah, it's a virtuous cycle. It just keeps going. Get happier, hum more. Also, Michael always talks about how I shift energy with singing. I sing a lot.
Yes.
To my own devices. And that also is breathing. It's also vibration. It's also telling my system, everything's fine. I'm singing a happy song.
Yes. And singing is sustained breathing. And that's slowing your heart rates, right? So when you hold a note, right, you're slowing your respiration, which is allowing your heart to slow. So it all works in the nervous system of safety, and nobody's singing who's stressed out necessarily.
Yeah. And another thing, and this probably goes in the pile of rocked and all that, is swaddling children, and how I know for myself, I like to still rock and I like to be squeezed. I like to be squeezed. Temple Grandin made that pretty popular with her work with cows and stuff,
Yes,
and also
yes.
people with autism. But it works for everyone, as far as I can tell. It's a
Yeah,
nice
and I want to
thing.
mention the squeezing. So the squeezing is very proprioceptive, and our largest organ of tactile feedback is our skin. So when you're squeezing skin and squeezing in lots of different places, like you could wear a tight skirt, or you could wear a couple of layers of clothes that are heavy on you, right? There's all kinds of squeezing. The squeezing sends messages to your brain, and when you're sending a flood of squeezing type messages, it doesn't allow other messages in. So you're flooding your proprioceptive input, which decreases your sensation of pain, which decreases other things like, I believe, depression and anxiety and those kinds of things, just by virtue of stimulating the skin receptors. So it's really phenomenal.
Oh, thank you for telling me that.
You're welcome.
That's just brilliant. And I do want to say also, we talked about meditation, and there's the quieting exercise like yoga, etc.
Yeah.
Right. But I personally, I'm a big fan of, if I feel stressed, of doing active exercise. And it could be what I heard you say before is like you use up the cortisol, you use it up when you run, right?
Yeah.
When you're breathing, when you're doing aerobic. So do you think that's why it feels so good to exercise and get rid of that stress?
Yes, because exercising, like if you're running, right, you're running away from the bear, and that allows your body to recover from the threat. So it's a physiological response. Exercise is really good. It also really gets your blood pumping, and it shifts your energy.
Totally does.
So it's super important. Thank you so much, Wendy.
Thank you.
And if this message spoke to you, please tell us what's on your heart. Leave us a comment. And for more information, feel free to go to our website, livebyhearttoday.com. And until tomorrow, live by heart today.
And that concludes this portion of
Live by Heart Today!
Thank you for watching. View more episodes on our YouTube channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's give a shout out to our sponsors. Thank you, We Are Storically, for making this show possible.